Have you ever wanted to create a banner of continuously scrolling logos, just endlessly looping across your site? Well, I was recently working on a client project where I needed something like this, and I couldn't find anything out there, so I decided to create a plugin of my own. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can easily add it to your Squarespace site. When you purchase a plugin, you're going to get access to this plugin installation guide, and it goes through setting up the plugin on your site, which I'm going to go over now in this video. So in step 1, you're going to add the plugin code to your site, which I've already done. And then step 2, we're going to actually set up the section. So I completely cover everything in this setup guide, including how to format your logos. And that's the first thing that I want to focus on. So you'll need to prepare your logos ahead of time before you're ready to upload them. And the one thing that you want to do is make sure that they're all exactly the same height. And then you're just going to crop the content to the width. And so you'll notice like the devilish demeanor, all these images have the same height, but it takes up more space inside of the height of the image than this killing kittens does. Here you can see more space on the top and the bottom. So you're just going to kind of like scale the content inside the height of the image and then crop the image to the width. And that'll ensure that the space between each of the images is even. All the logo content itself, all of that looks very similar in size, and you still maintain the correct spacing. So you'll want to prepare your logos for upload ahead of time. You know, you probably don't need logos bigger than like 500 pixels tall because they're not going to be super big on your site, but just make sure that they're all the same height. So again, this will go over everything that you need, including some customization that we're going to go over as well, how to update some of the styles in the CSS, and do common things that you're going to want to go over. So everything is covered in the guide, but I'm going to go ahead and go through the setup in this video as well. So let's start by editing the page and then adding a new auto layout section. And we can do that by going to people and then selecting this option in the top right. And if we edit the content and go to design, we want to make sure that we've added a simple list. It shouldn't be a banner slideshow or a carousel. It has to be a simple list. So in the Elements tab, we're going to toggle on the section title. This is mandatory. Make sure this is toggled on. And then we only want Show Image toggled on for now. Next, in the Content tab, we're going to upload all of our images. If you want a section title, you can also update that text as well. I'm going to go ahead and leave it as Meet the Team. I'm going to add in my items. So I've already uploaded some of my logo images here, so I'm going to go ahead and just use those. And I'll add in a couple of the logos. Okay, so now that I have my logo images uploaded, it doesn't matter how few you upload, it's automatically going to span the width of the screen. So don't worry if you only have a couple logos like I do. Next, we're going to go to the Design tab. And again, make sure it's simple list. The alignment is going to be which direction it scrolls from. So if you want it to be scrolling to the left, or if you want it to be scrolling to the right, you can right align it. But I'm going to left align it so that way the logos scroll to the left. The max columns is going to be your speed, 6 being the fastest and 1 being the slowest. Let's go ahead and leave it at 3. I think that's the best speed. The image crop doesn't matter, so we can leave that. And next we're going to go to size and space. Let's go ahead and switch it to full. The media width and space between items doesn't matter. The space between elements does though. So let's go ahead and toggle the 3 dots. And we need to make sure the space below section title is set to 91. If you don't see this field, then it means in the Elements tab, you forgot to toggle on the section title. So make sure this field is toggled on. And that way in the size and space, you'll see this field, which you can set to 91. The space below image and text we don't need, so we'll just set that to 0. The vertical padding is just, the section padding. So I like it at small, and then the position doesn't matter. So we'll just leave it at top aligned. But this is the value that triggers the plugin. So make sure this is 91. And once it is, we can save and exit. And then we're going to see our logos scrolling in the section. Perfect. So let's go over some of the customization options that we have. So built into the section, we can change some of these styles. So again, the alignment is going to change the scroll direction. So if you want it to the right, you can switch it to the right, but I'm going to keep it at the left. And then this is the scroll speed, remember? So 6 scrolls really fast, and then 1 scrolls really slow. So I like 3. I think 3 is like a kind of a good scroll speed. When you update some of these settings, you're not going to get the infinite loop anymore. So if you need to get the infinite loop back, you can always save and exit and then go back into edit mode, and that'll let you kind of like, re-see the scrolling so you can like more easily toggle some of these settings again. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle on card, and that just adds a little gradient fade here at the edges. And when you have this gradient setting toggled on, if you go to size and space and set the layout width to inset, the content will be constrained to the width of the page. So that's kind of a cool little like inset setting if you don't want it to be full width. Otherwise, I would just recommend leaving it at full, and that way the content, will span the full width of the screen, which is nice. So those are the kind of customization options you have within the setting, within the section, but we also have some CSS customization that we can add. So let's go to the customization tab, and we have these variables that we can update here to control the style of the scrolling logos. So let's navigate to our custom CSS window by clicking in the side panel and then clicking the / key, and then I'll type in CSS. And now I'm just going to paste this into the top of my custom CSS window. So this is going to control like the desktop logo height, the desktop logo spacing, and the space below the section title. And then here's all the same settings for mobile. And then we also have this mobile scroll slow, which I'll explain when we get to mobile. So I can easily change the height of these logos. If I want to make them bigger, I can do that. If I want to make them more spread out, I'll just change this to 150 instead of 100. Then maybe I want less spacing below the title, so I'll make it 10 pixels. And then we have all of the same controls on mobile. Maybe I want these to be a bit bigger on mobile and much more spaced out. I'll do 80 pixels. And then maybe I want even less space, so maybe I'll do 0 pixels on mobile. So the mobile scroll speed, this is just kind of a dampener. The default would be 1, and this is the constant rate, which is the same as on desktop. But because the screen is so much narrower, it's less wide on mobile, it looks like the logos are going faster because they span the width of the screen faster. So I've found just toggling this to 1.5 slows down the scroll a little bit on mobile and kind of makes the rate look more similar to the rate on desktop, even though it's actually going slower. So if you wanted them faster on mobile, you would leave this at 1. If you wanted them to go even slower on mobile, you could change this to 2 and they would go really slow. But I think 1.5 is nice, so you probably really won't need to toggle this at all. So finally, we can set up multiple sections. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to hover over this section and duplicate it. And now I can have this section scroll the other way, for example. So let me align it to the right. And let's go ahead and toggle off the section title by going to content. And then I can just delete this text and it'll hide the title. And then I might want these closer together so I can edit the content. I'll go to design, size and space. I'll click on the vertical padding, and let's get rid of the padding on the bottom of this section. And then I'll go to this section, go to design, size and space, vertical padding, and get rid of the padding on the top. So now we have 2 scrolling sections, but they're like much closer together and scrolling in opposite ways. So even though they're in 2 separate sections, it makes them feel more connected. So that's like a pretty cool effect there. And then let's say this section needed different settings. So maybe the logos, needed to be bigger or something like that. So how can we do section specific styles? Well, all I would have to do is right click on this section and click inspect. And then we need to go to the section itself. So I'm going to find the nearest section tag. And if I highlight this section, you can see it highlighted over here. I'm going to grab the data section ID. So I'll double click on the data section ID, Control A to highlight everything, Control C to copy. And then we target data section, data attributes in Squarespace by opening some brackets and then pasting in the data section ID and then opening some curly brackets. And now I can just copy these variables in here. But because it's limited to this one section, if I change the settings, it's only changing the settings here for this section, not any other sections. Whereas these global changes would apply to all sections. But again, we can do section-specific overrides. And if you're pretty experienced at customizing Squarespace, you might have the block identifier extension for Chrome, and that makes it really easy to just copy the data section ID rather than having to go into the inspect tools. So that's how you can set different settings, maybe change size and spacing for specific sections. And one thing that I recommend is just to copy this. So I'm going to cut it out of the site-wide custom CSS window. And I recommend putting this in the pages header code injection. So we'll go to advanced, open up some style tags. And I just like putting page-specific CSS in the page header code injection. That way my custom CSS window isn't like super cluttered with page-specific or section-specific CSS. And that way also, if I end up deleting this page, my CSS window isn't cluttered with a bunch of extra CSS, that CSS will get deleted with this page. So just a little CSS tip there. So that is how we can customize, two different sections and kind of change their styles. The last thing that I want to go over in the customization is how to add links to buttons. Add links to logos. So let's go ahead and toggle on show button. Then all you have to do in the content tab, if you want to add a link to a logo, you can just get rid of the button text because you don't need it, and then you can add a link. So I'll just add it to my mega menu page. Of course, you could add this as like an external link or something like that. And now item 1, my first item, is going to have a link to the mega menu. Cool. So it's the today logo has a link to my mega menu page. And if you wanted some items to have links and others not to have links, you can do that as well. All you have to do is go to the content tab, and if you don't want something to have a link, just remove the link and then clear the button text. And now this item won't be clickable. So if I save and exit, I'm going to see that one of the items is now not going to be clickable. So we get the cursor on all of these, but we don't get like a pointer on this one, not clickable. And here's a look at our final result with the plugin all set up on the site. And that's it. I've made this plugin really easy to implement and customize. And the best part is the code is hosted in the cloud, so you'll automatically receive plugin updates if there's any need to update this plugin in the future. If you're interested in picking up this plugin, check out the plugin page. And if you're interested in more Squarespace customization content like this, you can check out my channel, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.